double suns. Double suns. Oh, I have something trying to start. 1 second, people. Oh, I will screen share. Where is my thing? I not deleted. I placed on private yesterday's video because I think I might have got the angles wrong. And if so, it's not right to mislead people. Not if you suspect that you might be misleading them. I checked today with the sun. The sun was off. And a bunch of other people checked too. But I need to do this from a field so that nobody can object to the methodology. Okay, let me screen share. Everybody in the chat, greetings. This is not going to be a marathon. So let me screen share. Just waiting for the page to load. So that was Stephen Hawking giving us a message from the other life, from the afterlife, from the other realm, whatever. Right. First, these are airy beams. I did not know about these when I wrote the Book of the Sun, which is unlucky for me and the readers, I think, because if I'd known about these, I would have referred to them and sounded all the more intelligent. As you see, let me make sure that, yes, you can see my cursor. These lights are bent, okay? The lights are bent, curved. As you see here, I'm pointing only at the most coherent lights. These are abstractions, okay? The other two are real images. These are abstractions of what's happening from the misinformed mind of the physicists who think that light is a wave. This is a more closer abstraction, with the light being on the rim. Okay, so let's go back to this. This light can be manipulated through magnetism, obviously, into conveying information. Can you see? Like fiber optic cables, which is another way I refer to light in the Book of the Sun. So light can impart information. For instance, be happy and rejoice, says the sun, or hide because I'm going to burn you, says the sun. Okay, now what's this? This is the paper on it. So take a look, write it down. I might place the link in the description again. And now let me screen share something else, which is going to be the major part of this Hangout. This one. Okay. Again, greetings everybody in chat. So, and then I'm going to, in fact, I'll tell you a story. No, I'll tell you a story afterwards about Chris Van Mitra, who's been working with Crow 777. Oh dear. A little bit of drama, just a little bit of drama. A way of checking who has the finger on the pulse and a way of checking who is and who isn't an honest individual. Okay, first we will go over here, and this is going to be the main thrust of this brief Hangout. This was on a channel, it's a Spanish language channel called Hasta lo Más Alto. I've chosen this small section after discussing with somebody on Facebook who will remain unnamed because I don't think it's fair to shine light on them. So recently, Globebusters, Suns, let's not talk about the Book of the Sun. Oh God, no, that would be embarrassing. We have David Wise monitoring us. We can't have Antonio discuss his Book of the Sun. He might say something about Wise being an agent, about Steer being transgender and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, might even mention how Mike Kavanagh's a charlatan. So this would be a closer, a better discussion about what's happening with these double suns, okay? Here on the left, this big glare you see on the edge of this building is not on the edge of the building. It is literally reflecting from the glass side of that building. Some people have pointed it to this video showing this glare and the sun over to the right and said, there you go, that's a double sun. That's called misdirection. I'm going to show you why this footage contains double sun. So I'm explaining, I've muted it, that this is glare. And some people have looked at this footage, seen that glare, the sun to the right of it, and said, oh, look, two suns. This is a kind of charlatanism that Crow 777 is engaged in, but in a more subtle form and being held by the hand by Chris Van Mitra. This is the same footage. This is the sun that was to the right of the previous. Okay, this is the second sun. So I'm describing and circling, you know, because I was on the Hangout with Ricky Schmidt, who's translating my book into Spanish. Now, Ricky Schmidt is another one of those anachronisms in the flat earth, you know, because we're all supposed to be retarded and not have any education, because he is a PhD in Spanish literature. Oh, no, not a real doctor, huh? So keep watching. Here is the sun rising earlier than the footage a few seconds ago. And you can see its reflection in the water. What we refer to its reflection in the water. Okay, with our limited understanding of light, we refer to that as the sun's reflection in the water. Instead of the sun pouring through into the water, the same thing that causes the sun is causing the reflection in the water. But it will become absolutely crystal clear that what I'm saying is correct. Not just an illusion, not just fanciful thinking. I think I have to move forward, but actually correct. Let me move forward a bit more. Jeepers, how long is this taking to right here? Oh. So you're seeing what we call the sun's reflection, right? And you're seeing that sun. That's the second sun. The real sun is to the left and is not the glare on the building. The glare on the building is farther to the left and later on in the day. Okay? So please keep watching. And don't worry, I show more than one. This was a small portion, just an error. And where is it? Okay, here. Now, watch that sun. I've zoomed in on it. Okay, let me go back so that you can see where I start zooming in on it. Okay, so let's be clear. The real sun, what we call the sun, is to the left of the shot. This pink orangey light with the orangey reflection in the water is the second sun. It is not a lens glare of the first sun. Keep watching as the second glare of the sun stops being on an airy beam. Boom, it faces out. Okay, you see where the cursor is, it has faced out. That's where it was. It's no longer there, but its reflection in the water is still there. You see the reflection in the water? It is still there. That's because the reflection in the water comes from the same light that was causing that sun to appear at a nexus point of field lines. Those field lines can be referred to now as airy beams. So watch again. Watch as that sun disappears, but its glare in the water remains. This is not CGI. This is not camera trickery. Who shows you stuff like this? Antonio Subirats shows you stuff like this. You see the real sun over on the left? You remember at the beginning I said there was glare from a huge building. Some people have looked at this footage excised this portion of the footage and referred to that glare as the second sun. This that you're watching now is two suns on the television news in China, where they are talking about the two suns that were recently captured. Okay, this is the television news. The Chinese are not retarded people, and everybody understands glare, camera glare. The Chinese television news is not going to have camera glare as a news article or as a news item. Why do they have it? Because it's peculiar. It's a phenomenon that's not understood. So it's like, well, look at this funny thing that happened t'other day. By the way, I have to say, since I put the book out, some of the people who started communicating with me through email are absolute geniuses. So to you guys, thank you. I am so much... I didn't expect it. I didn't realize that that would happen. I didn't predict it to myself. I really didn't expect it. But my gosh, some of you guys are just geniuses. And I'm very grateful for it. Right. Now, as I said, this was on a Hangout, and I don't recall quite what was being said at the time. I'm just saying, well, these are two suns, you know, in the sky. It's not glare. Television news in China. Let's see if I can move ahead a little bit. Oh, no, I would just let it play. So these are double suns all over the place. Mainly seen, by the way, when looking towards the magnetic anomaly. So I'm not quite sure where that was in China. I'm trying to figure out where it was in China and which direction they were looking at. And I am happy to be corrected and be told those were double moons. Okay? If somebody reads Chinese and says, no, 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 those weren't double suns, they were double moons, I'm happy to say, okay, fair enough. That's totally fine. It's still two of them. And one of them is not glare. Now here we have another one. I think this one's from Italy. I'm not sure. And I show these for educational purposes according to the copyright laws. Damn it, not copyright laws, fair use. Okay, can you see how the sun is dividing into two? Some people might be saying, oh no, clouds that we can't see. It's clouds that we can't see that's bifurcating the sun. Like, no, it isn't. Stop making stuff up. It's a magnetic phenomenon that's bifurcating the sun. Now I go on to explain how this happens, the bifurcation of the sun, how it is that we can have two suns in the sky when only one of them is the real, our normal sun. The other is not another object. Neither of them are objects. Just like these rings aren't objects. Just like airy beams aren't objects. Okay, what I'm describing here is that, look, you have here the sun, that thing we call the sun. We have, I'll pause it, under here, a portion of one of the threads or beams. I'm going to call them filaments, which is what I describe them as mainly in the book. Okay, filaments. Think of spider webs. And this comes from A4, Adam Dwyer, who said, I think in terms of spider webs and completely crackpot chaotic, is like, now it's like, wait a second, it's not so crackpot and chaotic. Think of spider webs. We all know that there are spider webs that we've walked into because we didn't see them. They were there, but we couldn't see them. They were not energized by light in a way that we could see them. But at other times, we've avoided spider webs because we have seen them. It's not the times we've avoided the spider web, it was extra thick spider web. It was just the angle between our eye, the spider web, the thread, and the sun, or the light of the sky, because it might not have been a sunny day. The light of the sky energized. It allowed our eyes to pick up the energy on those webs. Now here is filaments. So the sky, we live in a miasma, in a plethora of filaments that in the old days were described as the ether. Here we see an energized one. Everybody can see this by looking at the sun with your own eyes. In fact, you can do this directly towards the end of the day when you can see the sun. Just calmly half close your eyes as if you were sun gazing. Okay, so you see all of these rings. These rings are there all of the time. All of the sky is composed of these rings. These rings are not just there under these special conditions. They're only visible under these special conditions. And what I'm explaining here is that with the other sun, we saw that there was a ring that went round from what we might perceive to be the face of the sun, like a great big hula hoop that goes off to the left and round the back of us and comes round, and another hula hoop that's perpendicular to us. And where the two hoops meet, you get this, okay? This can happen in various different places depending on the conditions. So I go back in the video to explain. See this horizontal, because that beam is horizontal. This one, the one that's above the camera, is horizontal. This other one is not perpendicular, but at an angle. Here we see more threads, energized threads that we have always dismissed from childhood when we were told, oh, the sun doesn't really have threads. Here's a very energized thread. And the double sun is when you don't see the links between the threads, these hoops of filaments. You don't see the link between them, but there is a link between them. And the link manifests as what appears to be a second sun. It is merely the same energy as the normal sun manifesting elsewhere. And it's not just the elsewhere is merely a reflection in the sky on, God forbid, camera lens glare. It's really there. That's why it casts shadow, reflection in the water. And that's why after it has disappeared, the reflection in the water remains, because the filaments which were manifesting that sun being a nexus of filaments, are energized. So despite the sun having disappeared here, I'm going to move back. So despite the sun having disappeared from the sky, the filaments are still energized, is what we call daylight. And those filaments still have the same shape. And they're drawing that shape in the water. That's what we call the sun's reflection. And that's why sometimes the sun's reflection comes towards you, and sometimes it veers away to your right or away to your left. Sometimes the reflection is directly underneath the sun, and sometimes it's just off to the left or just off to the right, depending on where you are and the conditions for that day. So let me go back to where I was. Oh, hello, beautiful Russian woman. Okay, so here's another. And here's some more that the guy who's filming this knows about camera glare, so he's moving his camera and he's zooming. Now, if this was camera glare, when he zoomed, the glare would have moved away from the sun. So what he does is he moves his camera around so that everybody can see it is not glare. And he zooms and he shows, look, it is not glare. Now, people might say, oh, well, what it is it's glare in his window. His window pane is doing that. It's like, well, if his window pane was doing that when he zoomed, it would also have moved. It's not glare. It is the same type of double sun that we've just been looking at. It's always much weaker and it disappears. And when it disappears, people are just left with like, well, what the heck was that? If you haven't captured it with a phone, then it's like, how are you going to convince people that that really happened? You can't. You can tell them that you swore you saw it, and they'll just tell you that you were seeing things. Or they might tell you you were seeing a sun simulator, which is why we've had the news releases about sun simulators and why we've had the predictive programming like television adverts with an artificial sun where it blinks out and they go and they fix it. That's why it's predictive programming. The guys who run this place, who run the attention of the humans on this place, because that's really all they run, those guys are focused on distracting the humans from seeing these things. So they know some are going to see it. And for those, well, if you've told them that you have a sun simulator, they will simply say, oh, it's a sun simulator. That's what it is. By the way, on this video, you can hear the bird song. You can hear that the guy's got his window open. Also, he's not retarded, so he's got his window open so you can see it more clearly. Oh, sorry, I paused it. I thought, what the heck? Okay, what's next? Don't recall. Let me see. Oh, yes, a nice, beautiful sunrise, double sunrise. Yeah. Okay, can you see how the person is moving the camera around so that you can really determine that it's not glare? In fact, whilst he moves the camera around, you can see glare. I'm going to slow it down. You'll see glare moving across below the roof line. Okay, I'll slow it down. Give me a second. Because these people, they know that people are just going to say camera glare. So they move their cameras to make sure that you can dismiss the camera glare. Watch out for real glare. Okay, there's the glare on the bottom of the screen. You can see what looks like a slightly distorted sun right now, and there's the glare on the bottom of the screen again. And now look, as he has zoomed out, see the glare? Sorry, there's that open window here. But you'll see the glare moving, if you haven't already seen it. There's the glare. So thank God for people like this guy who know what to do to demonstrate glare and non-glare. You see the glare there, moving in the opposite direction to the motion of the light, which is how glares behave. So in the opposite direction to the motion of the light in the distance. Let's just call it that way. Okay, now I'm going to put it back to normal speed because it's very jittery like this. You see the glare moving around. And there will be people watching this thinking that other smaller ball must be glare of a different type, of a type that's not understood properly. It must be. Not being able to accept seeing light in the water after the second sun disappeared and not being able to accept this. Now remember, folks, the reason some of you are watching this channel is that you know that my previous channel was killed by YouTube. It was killed for showing things like this and putting it coherently. So what you're seeing here is the same thing, only more separated. The only thing that causes a separation is basically the level of magnitude of the level of amplification of the waves that are causing the sun. So here the amplification is the amplitude is lower, so they're more distant. When it's higher, it's much closer. So, or the energy, the energy, the amplification, the amplitude of the energy. And what you're seeing here is a second sun rising. You see the sun, the normal, what we call the sun, and there's the other sun. Now this happens every year in Brazil, but also in Russia. And people will say, "Oh no, well, what this is duplicated footage, where you have two sets of waves tumbling over each other." They say, "Really? Have you ever looked at the ocean? For goodness sakes, look at the ocean. This is not two sets of video footage taken from exactly the same spot, several days apart, so that they can superimpose it over each other." And that's exactly what people have said. So ignore the suns if you want. Just look at the waters as they come towards you and see whether or not that's behaving like the real ocean or like superimposed oceans. This is a real phenomenon, people, and it's going to be captured by more and more people. This is what's going to happen. I predict this in the Book of the Sun. These are going to become increasingly frequent. They're going to happen more and more often, and more people are going to capture them. And when they're capturing them, there will be David Weisses on the beach telling people that one of them is a sun simulator, and Chris Van Mitra and a Crow 777 telling people at the beach, "Oh, the small one is a sun simulator." Even though if you look at the details of the sun simulator, there's no way of turning it off. And this is what happens. And eventually the minor sun disappears just like it did in the other footage. And this that you're watching now is not even time lapse. This is real speed, real time. What you'll notice too is that the beams that are reflecting this water into the ocean will start to bend. And I showed this bending beams or bending rays, bending reflection on Tim Osman's own video. He issued a copyright strike for me showing that. Tim Osman issued a copyright strike for me showing his own video, which shows this curved reflection, rather acutely curved too. And the Globelings just can't deal with this because it breaks their model of the world. Their concept of the world gets broken by this. The same thing as Wolfie 6020's model of the world gets broken when somebody says, "Hey, can you tell us what constellations you could see in the sky when you could see the moon?" And here we have 4. Now, here's the thing. Okay. These are filaments. These, okay? They're not as wide as the sun. These are very narrow at the point of the camera. These are very, very narrow at the point of the camera. These other suns don't have these. These aren't glares, but the frequency isn't apt for them to display their subsequent filaments. Now, Orphan Red has a video where she flew from Canada to Las Vegas, from Las Vegas back, and she filmed the same effect that's going on here over a solar power station. Only here we're looking horizontally. She was looking down towards the solar power station, and you saw these 4 lights stream across and move as she was looking down. Yes, orphan red. You know, that really stupid Mensa member? That's got to irk the Bob Nodells of the world. That has got to really, really sting him. And many of the other people in Flat Earth. Not to mention the Globelings. Oh, look, one of them disappeared. The glare from that other sun must have just disappeared, whilst the other glare remains. Or it's not actually glare. Okay, so, oh, I think I was spending something else. Let me see. Yeah, that was it. Oh, no. Yeah, here's another. Now, the last one, I'm not sure if it was sun. Oh, yes, this last one was passed to me. Okay, this is Russian footage from Russian-controlled Antarctica. Okay, not sure whether this is sun or moon. Really don't know, but let's watch. And this comes courtesy, it was passed to me by Sergei Malsev. Now, the people filming this are obviously flying. They're either flying on a plane or a helicopter. They are flying over Antarctica, looking north. I think, I'm assuming, okay. You see these, obviously these 2 lights in the sky? Keep watching. Remember, Russian-controlled Antarctica. Unfortunately, there's not enough information to say whether looking north or south. I am assuming the most logical thing to think is that they're looking north. If they were looking south, the bottom of the screen, all of this region, would be light because it would be snow. This is ocean. They could be looking south over an area of ocean that we're not familiar with, but I assume that it's looking north. Could be wrong. Look at the one on the right. Oh, there you go. I was saying that on the actual Hangout. Notice the change of color. The script that goes with this says something along the lines of, those who control this place turned them off. Now, it's difficult to say whether that's just dry Russian humor or what. Again, Russian-controlled Antarctica. I think I was probably saying exactly that in Spanish when I posted it. Let's move ahead.